Hey everybody, welcome back. What is that? Oh,
Is
maybe
this for
we're
steaks or is it for coconuts?
AJ, are you losing it now that you're not vegan anymore? Oh, coconuts. Yeah. Or yeah, okay. All right. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I am Gillian Barry, and today we have a great guest on. He is one of my close friends, one of my absolute best friends in the whole wide world. And you guys already know him if you watch my channel. He has been on many times before. We have AJ Dybka. And he was on before because he was vegan for 8 years, very strict vegan for 8 years. And like I said, we've done many videos together, and he was very strict vegan. He even ran Dan McDonald's group about the Children of Light group being vegan. And he's amazing. So we're going to talk to him today about why he left veganism, why he's no longer vegan, what he ate, what happened. I know he stirred up some controversy online when he posted a picture randomly out of nowhere, 321 ex vegan. And we're going to talk about all that. So let's say hey to AJ. How's it going?
It's going good, Joe. I'm glad we got to finally make a video again. It's been a while, but it's always good fun.
Yeah, me too. I love having you on. I think it's important to be real on this channel. And
Mhm.
I know the reality is a lot of people do leave veganism and they stop being vegan. So I think it's important to share some of that as well. And you're a close friend of mine. So I want to hear all about it. So maybe let's start with what initially led you to becoming a vegan, I guess around 8 years ago, right? Over years ago. And how that changed your life, like why you went into it, what you experienced.
Yeah, sure. So I was a big advocate of Rich Roll. I loved his podcast. I thought that he was just someone who I was really drawn to because he was really fit and athletic, but he was also really into nutrition. And in my high school years, I ate anything and everything and I was fit. But then as I got a little bit older, it kind of catches up with you a little more, right? You can't shake off the pizza and chicken fingers as easily. So I had been listening to his podcast here and there, and then he had someone on called Mike Arnstein, who runs the Woodstock Fruit Festival, and he was talking about eating lots of fruit and just feeling awesome. So I started to, just eat more apples and bananas and things, and I just started to feel so much better. I had some health issues. I had some insomnia, some inflammation, digestive issues, just a lot of stuff. I was only like 21, but I was feeling it, really anxious and stuff. And I started to eat the fruit and feel better. But then at the end of the day, I was starving. I felt so hungry. So I'd eat like a bunch of French fries and pizza and all this stuff. And I wanted to figure out how to make it work. It seemed kind of impossible, right? Going from all these dense calories to all of a sudden eating apples, it's really challenging. So I had found randomly, I watched all of Mike Arnstein's videos on YouTube, and then I found Durian Rider, right? And he was talking about a woman who was pregnant who was raw vegan fruitarian, and that was it. I watched his video. It's called woman eats 20 bananas a day or something. It was Lottie Jane, actually. I watched that. The rest is history. Consumed all of Durian Rider's videos, started doing the banana thing, the rice thing, and just felt awesome. Felt like I finally had control of my life. Felt like I could think clearly. I was stable. I was nourished. The only thing was I was so full at the time I didn't really do much exercise or fitness. But yeah, that's kind of like what led me into it.
Wow. And so you noticed a lot of benefits, right? And that's why you stuck with it.
Yeah.
You were like, would you say it was like a very life-changing experience, like when you started doing it?
I thought I found the holy grail of life, which was the sleep, water, sugar paradigm. So it's like, make sure you're hydrated enough because you're not yourself when you're dehydrated. You're not yourself when you're hungry. You're not yourself when you're tired. And your weakest link, you're only going to be as good as your weakest link. If you take care of those three things, they work together to giving you the stability, nourishment, and energy to sustain your life. So I thought that I had found that, and I was happy. I felt great.
And how would you say, like, over the years, you felt your best? Like, because I know there's different ways of eating, and a lot of vegans are raw vegans. And I know you spent a long period of time raw too, or like you were raw on and off over the years. So, what would you say, like, when you were vegan, what made you feel your best? Like a day of eating that made you feel your best?
Honestly, when I found Harley and I made the switch, I had watched one of Freely's videos, What's in Your Burger? And I just went vegan overnight. I think it was March 8th in 2014. And I'm like, I can make this work. And all I was doing, I would wake up, have a liter of water, have a banana smoothie. A couple hours later, have a liter of water, banana smoothie, and then I'd have white rice for dinner. So I was eating like 20 bananas a day and 2 to 3 cups of white rice. And I felt awesome. I had no need to change what I was doing. A lot of people would say, isn't that boring? And yes, it is boring. But if you feel really good from it, you don't care if it's boring. Right. And at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, I did enjoy it. So if I didn't feel good, I wouldn't do it because I'd be like, this is too constrictive. It's too boring. But when you feel amazing and your life is back on track, right, you can justify it a little easier. Plus, it's cheap and simple and easy.
Yeah. And did you notice like over the years, some people say like over the years they started to decline. Did you notice any of that? And is like that what led you to deciding to not be a vegan anymore?
I would say that it was kind of my own fault of having these snapbacks that were so kind of intense. And the first one being, I had done bananas and white rice pretty much. Of course, meals, sometimes here and there were different, but pretty much every day I was doing that. I went to Europe and traveled around and I just ate whatever and came back. When I started to eat the same diet, I wasn't having the same results. So I started binge eating. I was eating like 6,000 calories and just not feeling good. And I feel as though if I'd never changed things up, it would have kept working pretty well. But because I like had changed so dramatically back and forth, my body was kind of like shocked. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. And before we talk about like the change and then like everything now, I think you've been off vegan for a few months now. What would you say were the pros and cons of being vegan? Like the pros and the cons. And did you supplement? I want to know that too. I don't think I asked you that.
Yeah. So some of the pros and cons depends on which timeline you're talking about. If you talk to AJ back in the earlier days, it's going to be different from AJ, towards the end. So I would say in the beginning, the cons would be that I was pretty narcissistic about the whole thing. So I would judge people a lot based on what they ate, or if they didn't feel well, I'd be like, why don't you do banana smoothies? Just why don't you follow what I do? Because it worked for me, it has to work for you. So being trapped in that kind of mindset, I think, was pretty limiting. But as the years went on, I began, I got humbled so many times, my ass kicked so many times that I saw like it's so specific sometimes. It depends on someone's situation and options and stress levels and lifestyle and metabolic rate and all this stuff. So it really humbled me. And what was the other part of that
Were you
question?
supplementing over the years? Did you supplement as a vegan?
With B12. I think
Yeah.
B12 was the only supplement that I was taking.
Yeah. Okay. And I think that's a great point about like just because something's working for someone else doesn't mean it's working for someone else. I think that I've been humbled like that too. And I think it's just important not to, I'm definitely not a my way or the highway just because raw works for me, it works for everybody else. I think everybody has to do what makes them feel amazing,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you experience both sides of it, I could have a banana smoothie right now and feel terrible. So it's like,
yeah.
Before it was literally day one, I'd have it feel great. Now it's like I'd have to like work my way into transitioning into eating it and start to see some of the benefits, but still some of the downsides. It's like this tricky thing.
Yeah. And I'm wondering, like, did you have a lot of vegan friends and then like it shifted when you left veganism and like how were you treated? Let's talk about like the transition. So one day you posted and a lot of people didn't know 321 X vegan. And how did that feel? Like what kind of backlash did you get? And like how was the whole transition? And are you still glad you did it?
Yeah, so what happened was my brother was visiting and he was down and I didn't feel like I cared about being vegan anymore. And the only reason I was holding to it was because of what other people would think. So my brother was down. My brother wasn't vegan. He used to be, but he isn't anymore. And we were like, let's go get some steaks. I said it actually. I was like, let's go get some steaks because I was at work and on Saturdays, they order us lunch, right? And I didn't prepare enough food and was really busy. So I ended up just being like not prepared, no food. And I had someone at my desk and we were working a deal and I screwed up the deal. I had not saved the information, so I had to re-put it in. And the people at the desk were like, maybe this is a sign that we shouldn't get the car. And the only reason I made that mistake is because I was out of it. I was so hungry and exhausted and frustrated. So I told myself, like, all right, I asked myself, if I would have just eaten the lunch that they brought, would I have actually made the deal and, lead towards what will be a better life? So at that moment that night, I was like, let's go get some steaks, went and had it. And there was something about it. It felt very like, it felt right. It felt that like the camaraderie around going and doing it, it's like a bonding thing. Whereas like if we went out and we had some, vegan lentil soup at a restaurant, it wouldn't feel the same at all.
Yeah, I think it could be hard. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah. So I had it and there was just something that clicked about it. I enjoyed the experience. And then 2 days went by. I worked with people. I started eating at work, animal products. And I figured it would get out pretty soon. I'd be another raw Vana. So I'm like, I better make a post about it, just let people know. And I kind of told MP, I texted him and he didn't believe me. And then I just uploaded it. So no one knew it was coming really, but I just wanted to do it. I was actually excited about it because I'm like, I'm sick of being in the bubble, the paradigm. And yeah, I didn't expect as much backlash as I got.
Yeah. And okay, I just have so many questions about this. So first of all, how did you feel? Like, some people say, oh, after such a long period of time and not being vegan, they sometimes say, oh, my brain reset, or I noticed like such a big difference. Like, did you notice any drastic differences or no?
Well, I would say the first night, what I noticed was that I really wanted it. Like I actually, if you asked me, AJ, do you want to eat this? Like, yeah, I did. It was very appetizing to look at. Whereas if you asked me if I wanted, let's see, like a vegan pizza or something, I didn't want it. So it was very like attractive to want to eat that. I didn't feel any better or worse. I noticed my blood pressure went up a little bit. I don't know if it's because it wasn't used to such high fat or high protein or whatnot. But the interesting thing about eating the animal products, it wasn't this initial switch. For me, it was more like a gradual kind of thing where I either noticed more benefits or I noticed that I wanted it more. And I noticed I was more in tune with what I wanted. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. And like, so how long has it been since then, since you stopped?
I think it's been since May.
Since May?
After my birthday. So it's been like 4 months?
Yeah. And how would you say like that 4 months has gone as far as like how you're eating and like how you're feeling?
I'm a completely different person at work. I would say that the first 2 weeks of working, I was running around like a chicken without a head and like really not able to do my job properly at all, especially when I was doing raw. I was doing raw at first, and then I just started doing burritos and stuff. And I just couldn't perform at work. Either I was just way too shy or I was way overwhelmed in these things. And I'm still overwhelmed. I mean, it's a stressful job. It's, sales, high pressure and all that. But now I can, at least somewhat compete with the rest of the people. And there's something about just being more, I don't know what other word to use, but nourished. You don't sweat the small stuff. Whereas when I'm doing a more restrictive diet or a vegan diet and I do feel malnourished, it's like the smallest tasks can seem so overwhelming.
See, that's why I think that like brings me back to like how it can be so different for everyone. Cause like that's the case with you. And I mean, I haven't tried animal products for so many years, but for me, like being raw, I feel like I perform my best and like my sharpest and most energy and like stuff like that. And I think if I were to have anything else, then I'd be like more brain fog and like moody and like, I don't know. But okay. So I want to ask you too, like you brought something up about how like social aspects, the camaraderie, stuff like that. And I think that's a big thing with being vegan. If there's anything that I miss, like being raw vegan, it is definitely like the social aspect. I used to like live to like get dressed up, go for dinner, and our whole family, I'm on a juice fast right now. So I feel amazing, but our whole family went out to dinner the other night. And like, I just kind of like, I did like when I was walking my daughter to the bathroom, I did have a few moments like looking around where I'm like, I miss that a bit. Like I do miss it. So like, do you notice differences? I'm not saying I'm gonna go back to it. Don't worry guys, but do you notice differences? Like now, do you feel more socially connected, and did you feel more lonely before, like versus now, or it's just the same sort of thing?
Well, I think the lonely thing's only relative to how well you're doing. Really be super, isolated if my results are really good. But when your results aren't that good and you're isolated and you're, broke or whatever, it all combines and it's like feels really bad. So I just wanted to say that because if what felt best was to be isolated and do the things that like for yourself that you're doing, I think it's worth it. But of course, like who doesn't want to go and socialize and have fun and share some food and go out? There's tons of upsides, there's tons of negatives, but it was so important to me to have that ability to go out and share a meal. That's one of the reasons I moved to Chattanooga, because there's so many vegan restaurants. There's so many actually raw options as well. And I was mostly raw the last couple of years, and there really wasn't any ability to go out and have a meal. If I wanted to go out on a date or whatever, hang out with some friends, I didn't really have any options up where I was. So coming down here, there's places like Southern Squeeze and Cashew and stuff that I could go and at least have like a meal and be social. So that was really important to me. Now I have the entire city at my fingertips. So that feels really cool too. But it is important. For a long time, I would say for years, I was just so isolated, and it doesn't feel healthy to not be able to have any options, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to say too, when you did like raw and vegan, like you did cleanses too, right? Like you really took it serious. So for anybody watching, like I'm really close friends with AJ, and I know like he took it serious, like taking care of himself, being in bed at a certain time, like focusing on a positive life. And I know with cleanses, like with me, they make me feel amazing, like this juice cleanse I'm doing. But when you would do stuff like that, you wouldn't feel good, right?
It made my life so difficult. Like I'm someone who, if I'm going to do a cleanse, I'm going to do a fast, I have to be alone. I have to not have all these obligations and, commitments and things. I need to just focus on that, because one wrong move with it, I'll get into fight or flight, or I'll, miss a juice and get dehydrated. It just feels so complicated. because I
Mm-hmm.
don't have the energy that other people get when they go and do it. It's almost as if I feel how exhausted my body is and how sensitive it is, but like times 10.
Yeah.
So like I do see benefit from it, but it's almost not worth it because I can't live my life in any way.
Yeah. And did you check your blood work over all the years and see like, was there something missing? Is that why maybe like you were feeling
I
that way?
I've gotten everything tested so many times. I've had scans, I've had blood work, urine analysis, everything, micronutrient testing, and
I
just
feel
it
like,
never shows anything. They never
yeah,
have an answer for anything.
I know. I feel like for you, it must have been so frustrating too, because I know you really well. And I know like how much you were dedicated to like taking care of yourself and like eating like the raw living foods, the vegan foods. And like in your case, it just like wasn't working, right?
Right. And as far as the raw stuff goes, I've done 60 days on just bananas and green juice. I've done a 38-day grape juice and lemon fast. I've done stretches of 130 days of raw, 10 or more times. And like I said, there's definitely benefit. I definitely notice a cumulative benefit, but it's also difficult to sustain a lot of the time, or there's also some negatives that come along with it. Just like when I eat the meat, I don't pretend that it's only good, but I think that there are positives to it.
Yeah. And just so people know, you weren't the type though that were doing cleanses like all the time. You also like ate a lot, right? And it just like for me though, like if I were to go back, I can't see myself leaving vegan. If I were to go back to cooked food though, even in general, I think it would be a big slippery slope for me. And I think it would be no time before I'm back on like drinking wine multiple times a week and like ordering vegan pizzas a few times a week and just like hitting up those drive-throughs. And like it's just like a very slippery slope. It's part of the reason I love raw because it's just like I enjoy it and I'm so like just healthy and I'm not tempted to get to that world again where it just spiraled me and I'm drinking all the time and stuff. So for you, like, have you found it spiraled you at all? Or have you found like it's pretty easy to stay on track and like just add in a little bit of animal products and still eat the vegan foods as well?
No, no. So I think that in one way I lost complete control, and in another way I gained so much control. And I know that doesn't really make any sense, but when I was just trying to have complete control and control my diet 100%, I lost a lot of my control in a lot of other areas in life, if that makes sense. Now I don't really have so much willpower when it comes to trying to eat really well, but because I have so many options and so many things that I can choose from, that doesn't have to be a huge part of my life anymore, and I can have more control in the other areas that aren't diet. But I eat pretty much whatever.
Yeah.
So I don't eat fast food, but I'll eat French fries, I'll eat sandwiches and burgers and pizza and all that kind of stuff. And I know it's not like the best thing ever. And I do see some downsides, but I also am not caught up as much in it. And that part feels healthier,
Yeah. Like caught
like
up
my
with like the
mindset
labels.
around it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like if my family's down and they want to go out, it's like, yeah, let's go out. Let's have fun.
Yeah.
Let's have a meal. It's not a big
Yeah.
deal.
Yeah. So talk about like being caught up in it and the labels and stuff. Like how I know the backlash these days can be crazy. And I know you did have a podcast with the Hungry People podcast where you guys did a lot of like vegan content and stuff too. It wasn't like a vegan podcast though, but you guys talked
No.
a lot about that topic. So I know, like you said, when you released that picture and stuff, you did experience some backlash. So how did you deal with the backlash you got from some of the vegans? And like, what would you say to some people who say, well, you're never vegan in the first place then because vegan's not a diet and it's, it's
Right.
about the
Right.
compassion for the animals. Like, were you ever vegan for the animals or like, did you develop some of that compassion when you were vegan too?
Well, I actually say in the video, maybe you can link it down below where I talk about, why I left 8 years of veganism. I'm sure, some people would find it entertaining or informative, but I even say in that video, sure, I was never vegan because I get it. Everyone that leaves it, they're not allowed to call themselves vegan anymore. And I don't really care. It doesn't make, to me, if you're going around telling people they can never be vegan or were never vegan, you close the door to them ever actually coming back to being vegan, which is your whole goal in the first place if you want someone to be vegan, right? So, I mean, how many people either never tried veganism, which I think you should probably get on those people more than you would get on someone who's almost dedicated their whole life to it and trying to make it work, etc. But also, like, tons of people leave veganism and come back, or they leave the plant-based lifestyle and come back.
Yeah.
I learned probably 3 or 4 years into the whole thing, like, I want people to actually eat and do what they want because I just become unhappy trying to have other people do what I want them to do.
Yeah.
Even in, family relationships and things like that. It doesn't really make any sense to me anymore.
I feel like I just
And
have to interrupt for a second and say too, sorry. I feel like that's the most godly attitude too. I feel like God wants for us what we want for ourselves. So I feel like that's more of like a loving and compassionate and godly attitude too, to want for people what they want, even if it's not. But at the same time, I understand people have like, even as a raw vegan, I've developed some of the compassion towards the animals too. I didn't go into it for ethical reasons at all. I have developed compassion, but yeah, sorry to cut you off. Go ahead.
Oh, no, you're fine. I went into it actually seeking it because of health, but then when I found Freely's what's in your burger, I saw like the animal torture stuff, and it's horrible. I mean, no one can deny how terrible it is. And for a long time, that was my why to make sure I stayed on it. But something about talking with MP actually and doing the podcast and watching certain videos, the more and more people I talked to that were either vegan or left veganism or thinking about it or whatever, I just completely don't see a fine line anymore. To me, it's all the same. It's all very whatever you need in the moment. I know that people kind of draw that hard line and they would never cross it, but I see people as the same despite what they eat. And it's horrible what happens with the animals, but I mean, I don't have a way to justify it. Honestly, I eat it, and unfortunately they suffer.
I just like am so against the whole dairy industry, and I'm not judging anybody who eats it at all. I used to eat it all the time. I used to have a favorite sheep's cheese from France that I was addicted to, and it was like my favorite thing ever. But I think just like those cows, like they get them pregnant and then they take the babies away and then they milk them. And like you see the cows like bawling their eyes out and the baby crying because like they have the same feelings as us, right? So I just think, imagine someone did that to me. I birthed the baby and they did that. That would be even worse than like someone just taking my life. I'm serious. That would be like hell on earth. So like, I just think the dairy thing's crazy. But yeah, I don't think people should judge people. I think it doesn't do anything to judge people when they leave, when they come back, when they're doing this, when they're doing that. And like I said, though, at the same time, I understand with like the compassion for the animals and they're defending the animals. But at the same time, I think it makes people want to run the other way. And I've said that many times on my channel. I'm not like that. And I mean, I'm still best friends with you, even though you're not vegan. And I know some people might say, well, you're not a vegan then, Gillian, because your best friend's not vegan and you're supporting, like, people have gone so far to like send me messages like that. So maybe I need to go by raw foodist. Like, I don't know, because these labels, sometimes you feel this pressure and it comes along with like such a dogma that is so not me and such like a discriminatory thing. So anyway, yeah, with the backlash.
I actually wanted to interject there for 1 second, just say like, I thought about it a lot, how I wanted to come across. Actually, when I named Hungry People, I made sure to make it not something vegan because I knew at some point there probably would be a time where I'd contemplate not being vegan anymore. So I thought about it a lot over the last probably year and a half. And I didn't want to come out and be like any of these other ex-vegans where they just talk trash about vegans and they hate veganism. And it was created every problem in their life. But then you walk a fine line of getting, attacked or slandered. And you're kind of like, you're trying to be, real about something. And people are upset about that too. I could have pretended, could have just.
People are just upset no matter what you do.
Yeah.
People are offended no matter what you do. And yeah, some people leave and they get very angry at the community and very extreme. Like that one guy, I'm not going to say his name or say what the festival was, but that one guy that threatened to take everybody out at a festival, which was pretty freaking nuts.
Yep.
So some people just, I mean, I don't know. I have a lot to say on this topic. I don't know, but I'm wondering too, like, okay, so you got some backlash, you got some DMs and whatever, you dealt with that. You handled that pretty well. And I'm wondering though, like for me being raw vegan, I feel like very spiritually connected. I don't know, when you went vegan or raw, did you notice any like feeling more spiritually connected and more loving and more compassionate? And did you notice a change then now that you've returned to like putting things like animal products or pizzas or stuff in that vessel of yours, AJ?
Or stuff. Yeah. I would say that when I went raw tofu or high carb, I got less spiritual, 100%. I was very critical. But I had control, which felt really good. I was in control of my emotions. I wasn't easily frustrated or angry or anything. It was just, the term carved up. I was carved up. You couldn't offend me. So with that came a lot of a bit of narcissism, I would say, because during Ryder, he was kind of like the person who was leading me through this. He was really against like meditation and all the spiritual people who are kind of just saying what they want to say and then they sell you stuff. So I kind of like pulled back from all of that. And I was more about being straight edge, being vegan, being fit, and kind of like isolated myself in that way. And I would say until I got into raw, that's the only time where I kind of feel that type of connection that you're talking about. I always feel more humble when I'm there. I always feel more gentle. I always feel Sometimes I get more frustrated. So sometimes I'll get angry, whatever, because for whatever reason, maybe I'm facing something. But I would say that when I'm raw or God forbid, when I'm on a juice fast, for sure, I actually feel as though I had an ego death on that juice fast, which is
Wow.
probably why we get along so well.
Yeah, we get along really well. And would you say, and I'm not like, imagine I cut you off because you're not no longer vegan. Imagine I was like, we can't be friends anymore, AJ. It's it. I'm not like that. Maybe some people don't like me because of that, but I'm not like that. My family's not vegan. So I don't know. Tell me in the comments down below, guys. Do I need to remove my title in my banner that says raw vegan? Maybe I need to put raw foodist and start saying that just to avoid I just like to avoid the drama and the hate.
Well, I remember it was funny. I remember telling you that I was thinking about it. And then 2 days later, or a day later or something, I did it and I texted you. And then you said like, oh, wow, but then didn't respond for like a day or two. And I thought you were pissed.
No, I was just busy. I think I was busy. I forget. No, I wasn't. Yeah, it's
I
funny
know, but I thought you were. I was like, oh, crap.
that's what's funny about texting or like messages, you can really interpret things the wrong way sometimes.
Yeah.
But no, I wouldn't judge you at all. I mean, I support whatever you want to do for yourself.
Oh, no, yeah, you were great.
Yeah, I think that's the best attitude. And so I'm trying to think what else we should talk about. I'm wondering, like, so do you feel happier now? When did you feel happier? Now that you have been a few months in, you can really get a sense of both lifestyles. What made you feel happier?
See, when I hear these questions, I think of like timelines. There's just so much involved. I would say that I like what I'm doing better now. As far as happiness, there are parts of my life that are a lot happier, right? But there are so many things involved that can make things stressful and harder. So I don't know. I feel like it's too open of a question unless I get so specific. Things are good, I would say. There's a lot to be done to improve my life, and I'm working on it. I don't think I can do it. I don't think I could do it as efficiently or easily as I would be able to, eating this way.
Yeah. And do you think you'll ever return to being a vegan?
Well, I don't know if I don't think I'd ever return to being plant-based or vegan unless it was raw, just because I don't see any benefits unless I'm raw.
Unless
If
you're
I
raw,
eat
yeah.
rice and I eat potatoes and I eat beans, I feel horrible. So
Yeah, that's the thing. Like I feel so amazing on raw. So it's like it would be hard to not be raw. Like nothing changed my life more than the day I went raw. Totally just transformed me.
it's just not
Well,
appealing. Like the green juices and the salads and things are very appealing. But when I think of like big smoothies and starch meals, it's just not appealing.
yeah. And I'm wondering, like your family, like your close family, were they supportive when you were vegan, or were they supportive when you left vegan? I know some people have a hard time with their family. A lot of families like judge them for being
Yeah.
vegan. So how was that?
Well, when I went vegan, a lot of my family went vegan. My brother, my sister, my cousin, his wife, all these people went vegan. My cousin Will and his wife went vegan, but now no one's vegan.
Yeah.
Except my sister. My sister's still vegan.
Yeah. And do you kind of have the attitude? Like I know a lot of people when they leave vegan, but when you leave vegan, do you feel like that's not the diet that's meant for us? A lot of people start channels against it and think like that's not meant for the human body. These people are promoting like the worst thing ever. Is that kind of like an attitude you've sort of developed or no? Or do you think that people can still thrive on it?
No, people can definitely thrive on it. The problem is when we're ignoring our signals that because of our intentions. So like if you feel like we've said, I'm going to repeat myself, but like if you feel really great and you're doing great, that's awesome. Keep doing that. We want people to feel good, want people to look good and perform well. But if you're just eating because you think you're supposed to and you're doing terrible, that's not really a good sign. I think a lot of vegans lose that. At first, they see the benefit, they feel good, but then over the years, because they've bought into the diet so much, maybe they start YouTube channels or Instagram or blogs or whatever. And now they have that behind them and that pressure behind them. And they think they have to find a way to make it work. And they're starting to develop issues, whether it's a deficiency or they're losing too much weight or gut issues. And they're ashamed that they're failing their diet. They're failing the people that they've bragged about it to and everything. And that's the tricky part. They're no longer listening to their system. I'll tell you what, when I started eating the products, I thought about eating a bean burger and it made me sick just thinking about it. Not because it would have made me ill, but I just didn't want it. But of course, a bean burger sounds good when you're hungry and you have no other friggin' options other than a tofu burger. So now when I think about it, okay, right now, if I think about, do I want a bean burger? It sounds like a 1 out of 10. But if I think about getting a Wagyu burger at Jack Brown's around here, which is like high quality, it sounds like a 10. Sounds great. My body actually wants that. And you could say that's parasites. You can say that's candida or whatever. And there's always going to be some truth in that kind of stuff. But at the same time, there's definitely some big BS when it comes to the detox community, blaming everything on that stuff. I think it creates eating disorders because you don't know what to do. You don't feel good, but you know you can't try these other things. And it's scary, especially in people who are underweight. I think if someone's overweight, you have so much room to play with really low fat diets or raw diets or whatever, because you're not going to immediately, become emaciated, right? But when you have someone who's underweight, or you have a child, or you have someone who's developing, it's so tricky. Imagine pulling animal products or high dense foods out of these younger people's diets. It's scary. You want them to thrive and do well. And the thing is, when we're older, if we pull it out, it's not as big a deal because you're already developed. So I don't know. I just don't claim to know anymore. I think that I know nothing. And
me too. I think so too.
I want people to do well. So whatever that means for you.
I love that. And do you feel like you were eating enough? Because I know that's a big thing people say. Like they say whenever vegans fail, well, you just weren't doing it properly. You weren't getting the supplements. You weren't eating enough. Do you feel like you were eating enough calories each day?
I think that the people who claim to know what you did wrong, like they know it. They're not guessing. They're not like, I think this is what it is, when they know. I mean, that's not narcissism to me. I think it's really unhealthy behavior. But of course, there were times where I didn't eat enough. And I was very vocal about that in public. But what happens when you can't eat because it makes you sick? Of course, you don't eat enough. But that's the whole problem, right? So there were times where I ate surpluses way too much. I was eating 8,000 calories a day. I was still failing. I was still failing then because I didn't feel good, right? So I would consider that a failure. But then there were times where I was eating 1,200 calories and I gained 20 pounds, doing green juice all day in a salad.
Yeah.
That's not enough calories, but that's the best I felt. So like, and then people say because of the 1,200 calorie diet, that's why I failed on veganism. I would say the opposite. I would say the reason I failed at veganism is because I thought I had to stuff my face so much all the time. And it led to issues.
And for me, I know like a lot of people say I know you weigh more. So your weight, you weigh more now, right? Like what was your weight when you're vegan versus now?
This is actually the most I've ever weighed, I think.
Wow.
And I'm still skinny,
Do you know how much weight you've gained since you left being vegan?
Yeah. So I left it. I started at the car dealership. I sold my first car. I was like 145 pounds. That's the photo I sent you.
Yeah.
And the last car I just sold, I'm 170. So I gained 25 pounds in like 3.5 months.
Wow.
And the thing was, I was eating cooked vegan. I was eating 10 burritos a day. And I was at the weight you saw in the skinny photo. So
I'll try put that up.
The calories were there, right? I just maybe wasn't absorbing them, or it wasn't the right thing. I don't know. But I was eating enough calories.
Maybe you didn't get out the mucoid plaque, AJ.
Maybe.
That's why it's so different for everyone. Cause like, see, for me, sometimes people will say you're thin, Jill. I'm like, what? I think if they could see me full length, they wouldn't say that. But I weigh 125 and I'm 5'7", and I actually weigh more now than before I was vegan, before I was raw. So like, it's different for everyone. That's why I think it's important to share your story. And I don't know, maybe it'll upset some people on my channel because it's more vegan content, but I think it's more real too. It's real. And you've been on the channel before. Yeah. And I just love making videos with you, sharing real stories. And so I want to ask too, when you were even running Dan's group, Dan McDonald, who's really well known, long-term vegan. So how was that when because you had a pretty important role in that, running his group. I think you were doing lives on there with them and supporting them and stuff. How was the reaction there? With Dan and with the group, was everything positive, or did you get a lot of heat from that? Because I mean, it must be hard for some people when they have a role in the vegan world, or like you said, they have the Instagram page or they have built a following around that. And then they want to shift, whether it's vegan or not vegan, whether it's like anything. I'm interviewing somebody, this guy, Perry, and he had a meat truck and it was super successful. And then he had all these health problems. So he was like, I'm going plant-based, and it totally fixed all his problems. But then he was like, whoa, right? I just built this successful business. So like, that's a big thing too. So like, how was the reaction there when you announced this big 3-2-1 vegan?
Well, there's people who claim to be conscious, and then there's actual conscious people. And the good thing about DTM and the people that he attracts into his world, and since I was a part of it, my world, they're actually conscious, kind people who are very open-minded and very patient. And I don't know why I said patient, but just people who are like genuine, if that makes sense. So I didn't get any flashback at all, really. People were kind of curious, if anything, but very supportive. I mean, everyone's so kind. I think you and Dan were the only two that immediately gave me complete positive, reaction and feedback. Dan reached out to me. He said, AJ, is this true? He called me actually. And I was like, because he's seen it on Facebook that I posted that. And I was like, yeah, it's true, Dan. He's like, good for you. You know, most people wouldn't say anything.
Yeah. Good for you being honest and being real, and good for you just following the right path for you.
But I've had 2 people from the group message me today, actually. So I'm still in touch with a handful of people.
Good.
I learned a lot from the group and I have nothing bad to say about anybody. So
that's good. And is there anything that comes up right now, like that you can think of that maybe you said like people have had questions about you leaving? Like, is there anything that comes to mind that you think people would be wondering in the audience that you want to share about like the change and everything?
I actually got a lot of private messages outside of the negative ones that people were saying, hey, I did the same thing, but I haven't said anything. Or
yeah,
oh my God, it was the best decision I ever made to leave veganism. I feel so much better. My hair grew back. I actually have a libido again. And that's what's so tricky, because then there's people who go raw and they gain all that stuff back, right? So
yeah, that was like me.
It's so
weird,
it's so independent. And I think that the whole thing that we should take away from this is like, think of yourself as an individual, right? When you don't, you lose yourself. You lose who you are. You lose your needs. Now you're eating to fulfill the needs of other people, which does not sound healthy.
Yeah, that does not sound healthy at all.
And you can apply that same mindset to raw as well. People are failing on raw, and I was failing on it in a lot of senses, but I also felt like I was doing something wrong. There was something wrong with me, when really at the time it might have just been the wrong decision. And we go through phases and seasons in life where different things might help in different ways.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's important everybody just listens to their own body, gets quiet, meditates, or like, tunes everything out and just listens to what is right for them. Well, this has been great. Thanks so much for coming on. If you guys want to see AJ back on, let me know in the comments down below what type of video you'd like to see, because we love making videos together. And I was just happy to give you guys an update what's going on with AJ, because you've seen him on the channel before. And if you have any closing words, AJ, then go ahead. And I know you've started a new podcast, which is so exciting. You're living in Tennessee now, and you started the podcast Talking Chat, which I will link below. And if there's anything else you want to share, closing words, or where people can follow you, then definitely go ahead and do so.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on, Jill. I always love talking with you. I started a new podcast, Talking Chat. I want something where I could have complete creative control. MP and I saw that the potential in creating community around hungry people, and we actually sold the most tickets for people to sign up at Woodstock, and lots of awesome stuff happened there. And I wanted something more close to home now that I'm in Chattanooga. So I started a podcast. I actually was running it through Zoom, but I officially have a studio now. So I'm going to be doing in-person chats about the mission statement is to bring to light the best Chattanooga has to offer when it comes to business, food and drinks, outdoors, music, dating, social clubs, and current events. So I'm not in the just food thing anymore. It's going to be a wide variety with sprinkle in, nutrition and food stuff will probably be in there as well. But I'm really excited. Once the ball really gets rolling and we kind of work out some of the technical kinks, I think it's going to be the #1 podcast in the city.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think it will too. You're just a natural, so it will be for sure. Well,
awesome. And when Jill comes and visits me, we'll go to some raw restaurants and we'll do a podcast in person.
I'm excited. I'm going to vlog that. So guys, be sure you subscribe so you don't miss that. I can't wait to come down and do that. That'll be so much fun. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. To the viewers, if you want to see more videos just like this one, then let me know in the comments. Give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe if you don't already, so you can be part of this amazing community. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.